but you must become hydrated from the water.
I will skin you alive and drink your blood. Anyway, moving on.
Well, that probably won't fucking hydrate you.
We'll fucking find out.
So much nicotine in the blood.
Right?
I have blood in my nicotine system.
I think I have air in my nicotine system.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to Lorecast Eternals.
Howdy, y'all.
Today's topic is cannibalism.
Howdy, ho. How you doing?
So, welcome back, y'all. I know it's been a hot minute, and
Been
frankly,
a little longer than intended.
yeah, we're sorry about that. On my part, life's been getting crazy. This is possibly my last semester at university or college, and part of that leads up to not only do I have a pretty significant course load, also I need to do hunting for an internship, which has inevitably turned into a interview. So I'm now potentially having a job interview next week, and if not, I still need to basically go through the job interview process to find an internship location for my next semester, and yeah, life's just been kind of hectic for me, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, it hasn't been a whole lot better on my half. Besides, like I said, 3 months ago, I gotten sick, and that's why we initially missed the deadline. And I'm sorry for that. Nurgle hates me, but
and then your life just kind of got crazy there.
I don't want to fucking talk about it, dude.
Moving on.
But me and my significant other are gonna start gearing up for doing house hunting soon and things. So we've been getting ready for that. So yeah, just a bunch of adult shit kind of came out of fucking nowhere. So yeah, it's been a little while. It's so weird that Mitchell is the most secure and stable out of the three of us right now.
I just constantly injure my hips.
You watch sports now?
I watch sports now.
You get ghosted on dates?
Why would you do that to him?
Why do you get
Because you and I have suffered, and I need to make him suffer.
God damn.
I had the prospects of going on dates, but that just never happens, apparently.
Oof.
Yeah, I am supposed to be going to a hockey game with a chemical engineer next Friday.
Ooh.
Wait, hold up. Wasn't there someone... No, yeah, this is that gal from that we used to work with at Transit 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. She has 2 kids, but
Hey, man, we're about to hit 30.
I mean,
She constantly have snacks in the household. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're all
also about to say,
30 at this point.
that's kind of the ultimate... Symbiosis is not the right word. It's the ultimate evolution of guys who are about to hit 30. Is either, be single or, single mother.
Right.
Or get really good at one hobby.
Oh yeah, by the way, we have a person here.
By the way, so whoa. Hush.
Yeah, it's not your turn to talk yet, but you haven't been fucking introduced or nothing, motherfucker.
Everybody.
So, by the way, welcome back to Lorecast Eternals. I'm Phil.
I'm Jacob.
I'm Mitchell, and we have really taken to heart all of the recommendations in the request channel and the Discord and about how everybody wants Jay back. So we listened really hard, and we didn't grab Jay.
Now hold on. Yeah, drum roll please for not Jay.
And drum roll please for not my brother Matthew.
It's a different Matthew this time.
We know too many Matthews.
A little bit.
All right, so Matthew.
Now you can talk.
Is Master letting
Okay, stop talking.
Okay, shut the fuck up.
But yeah, Matthew doesn't know a whole lot about the setting, but we wanted to invite him on for an episode, just if he has any questions while we're talking to ask us, because we kind of felt like, as someone who doesn't have any if you interrupt me, motherfucker, I swear to God, I can see it in his eye. He's like breathing in.
By the way, this is the This is the bonus episode to the actual episode because we're just here to ramble and talk.
Oh yeah,
crap.
we're doing the
We just got done talking about Naruto for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to start this at 10.
It is why it's past midnight now.
We make good choices.
But blue vortex, spicy.
Anywho, so
Orange Piccolo, not
Would
spicy.
you shut the fuck up?
I am going to commit a war crime. Matthew's here. If he has any questions while we're talking, we just told him to go ahead and ask because he's kind of bringing a cool perspective of someone who really doesn't know anything about nothing in AOS. And we kind of feel like maybe he will ask questions that we won't think to answer because, like I said, we've always had this podcast more for people who are getting into the hobby or want to know a little bit about the lore and not have big, huge deep dives. So Matthew we'll ask questions that we might not think to answer because he, at the moment at least, doesn't fucking know anything. So
Just to give
he's here.
just to give y'all an idea, Matthew, you know more about like 40K, right? But almost nothing about AOS, right?
Yeah, that's
You
pretty
almost
accurate.
nothing about 40K as well.
He's getting there.
In the grand scheme of things, yeah, I effectively, quote unquote, know nothing about 40K. I mean, obviously the three here sitting know more than I do, but I'm kind of dipping my toes into it. But when it comes to AOS, I know little nuggets, tiny little nuggets of information. Like I know of Papa K and Brokawa Friends.
I mean, my man.
my
that-
main G right there.
Hashtag known as the Celestin Prime.
By
Fight
the
me
way,
on
that
this.
is fantasy, not AOS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, case in point. Case in point.
But yeah, so to give you an idea, we got Matthew interested in Warhammer because initially we played a lot of Total War Warhammer with him, and he wanted to know a little bit more. So
Me
we,
and Phil
at
bought
the
him
time-
like $200 worth of DLC in games.
yeah, something like that. But no, at the time, Circe and I, or Jacob and I, were running a. God, it's been so long since I've called you Jacob. It's weird.
I still hate it.
Jacob and I were running a, or not running, but we're part
Please,
of a.
for the love of God, just call him Circe. Please.
Circe.
There's
Circe
going to
and I
be
were
new
running
people
a.
to the podcast. They're going to be like, who the fuck are they talking about?
Circe and I were running a Dark Heresy campaign, which is basically Warhammer 40K role playing. Tabletop role
It's
playing.
40k D&D, basically.
Yeah, a little bit. And Matthew.
It shakes the table.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We invited Matthew to join us, and that was kind of his first introduction. And now he's playing a Black Templar Space Marine.
Yeah, we've kind of accidentally given him what I call the Phil treatment when it comes to explaining lore, because it was like, you want to know more about 40k? Cool. So I'm going to tell you about Eisenhorn, and it's like, what the fuck's the Imperium? So that's kind
He
of...
did it again?
Yeah,
You did it again?
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't Phil. It was us. We've accidentally did it because
Oh my God.
he kind of hopped into my Dark Heresy campaign, and so it's been a little weird. Not as bad. I will say Phil still holds the trophy for being the most confusing motherfucker to ask about 40K.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's kind of gotten that treatment on accident. So he's getting little nuggets and whatnot. But yeah, he knows like fucking nothing
God,
about
I
AOS.
missed the Cosba. That's where it all went downhill for me.
I don't know if I can talk about it.
Over some mint tea and was listening and learning about the Emperor.
What else? Yeah. Oh, some other announcements before we truly start rambling.
Well, we're going to have to make these again in the main episode. We might want to save it for there. Because we're basically...
I mean, we're like halfway through it, so fuck it.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
We know we had said we're doing the 3-week schedule.
Wait,
for
halfway through.
episodes.
We're only like 7 minutes in.
Oh, sorry, 1/50th of the way through of these
There you
fucking
go.
things. We're still trying to keep to our an episode every 3 weeks, but we've kind of come to the conclusion that with how hectic things are right now, that's kind of a soft deadline for like we're gonna try to keep to that. But like if it can't happen, it can't happen. We're not gonna throw a big fit about it, just because like it's been causing us a lot of fucking stress trying to get this shit, tied up in a bow while also having to be an adult. So there's that. And the other big one is we're gonna be making some changes to the Patreon. In that same vein, we've kind of come to the conclusion that like as of right now, we're just not really capable of dedicating the time necessary for a game night. And we're sorry if so we're gonna go ahead and take that off the Patreon. If y'all want to stay on at $5, that's cool. If y'all
Yeah,
want
to
to
give
cancel
y'all an idea,
subscription, that's
that's-
totally cool too.
That's at the $5 tier, so...
Yeah, like I know, like we've talked about possibly changing things, and we've had people say that that they want to support us. So like we're gonna keep the $5 one up just so it's there if you want to, but obviously no obligation. If you want to downgrade or just cancel, that's totally cool. What we are gonna do just to kind of fill the void a little bit is if you have access to the Patreon exclusive chat and you ever want a game or do something like that, just hit us up in that chat, and if we're free, we'll totally hop in and game and hang out. We're just not gonna have the scheduled thing anymore because as of right now, it's just kind of not feasible. Hopefully that will change in the future, but we can't really make any promises. And once again, for that, we're sorry. We know it's been kind of a consistent problem with us, but being an adult can be fucking hard sometimes, and it just kind of is what it is.
It's weird that I'm the one that's the most stable at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, neither do I. Can you go back to being like a depressed like sack of shit who has nothing stationary in his life
Who's
and low-key
constantly
wants to kill
working
himself?
and like work 60 hours a week at minimum.
Yeah, can you just be a piece of shit again, please? It made me and Phil feel really good about ourselves.
hey, I'm about to start a career here. You shut the fuck up.
I'm
Like,
trying to sort of
it's
family
not.
here.
It hasn't been all hunky dory for me. My transmission exploded in my car and had to buy a new car.
That new car smell though.
God, it's such a nice
It's
car.
so
I'm able
good.
to take people places now.
Yeah, so Mitchell can stop like politely calling me fat
Oh,
because he wouldn't let me in his car because of his fucking transmission. I'm like, I get it, Mitchell.
I
I'm fat.
meant
Leave me
to
alone.
ask, how many miles did you and I finally put on that thing?
It's
'Cause that was my old car.
Yeah, no, it was at 2114.
214,000 miles. That's not bad for that little Focus.
I mean, it was supposed to die at 160,000 miles.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, between Mitchell and I, we put like basically
And
200,000. Or
a little
not
car
quite
that
200,
could.
but
Seriously,
like 150,000 miles.
We did not treat that car nice.
No.
I mean, I
Let me
remember
tell
that
you-
car when Phil had it, and like, no.
Let me tell you about the time I went for like 40,000 miles without doing an oil change on it.
Bro, no.
I thought my 8,000 was bad.
Yeah, I fucking. To be fair, I was like,
Phil's car, father help, Philip. Yeah, that's fine.
to be fair, I was 18 and really stupid about cars.
Yeah. Well, also,
And then I got a job as a bus driver.
we kind of drove it like a NASCAR.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like that thing. Well, the whole entire thing about the Ford Focus is that transmission, if you drove gingerly, it just would not go. So you had to dog it.
You had to kick it in the ass a little bit.
Yes, you had to dog it absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, because you'd like slowly put your foot down, slowly put your foot down, slowly put your foot down, slowly put your foot. Oh, okay. Now I'm accelerating.
So what I'm hearing is your car was in fact in a BDSM.
And pretty much, because if you did not hit that gas pedal just right,
Touch me harder.
if you didn't,
All right, calm down, ghost stories.
yeah, if you didn't hit the gas pedal just right, the transmission would just hitch. It would just constantly skip.
You needed to touch it like a certain spot and like really hit that one area. That's what
No,
I'm
you just
hearing.
needed to punch it.
Oh. Right in the fucking face.
Just donkey punch the shit out of
Yeah.
it. I'm sorry, children.
I'm sorry, children. Yeah, so I think that more or less concludes all of the announcements.
And again, we're probably gonna repeat all this on the actual.
Yeah,
lore
just in
episode,
case
so,
anyone
yeah.
ignores us. But just
On that one though, it'll be the first thing out of our mouths
Yeah,
instead
right.
of like the 50th.
yeah, this is the rant episode. Then we have the lore episode where we have to be professionals.
Yeah.
Also, and just to make sure it's said, because I always want to say this, is once again a shout out to everyone who's in the Patreon. You guys are awesome. I know we haven't been the most consistent, but you guys have stuck through. We really appreciate
are.
everything you do.
We are the shiniest pieces of turds, and we appreciate you polishing us.
We suck, and we're happy that you're cool with that. And also, shout out to the book club because I'm trying to get some hype into that. I know we have
Yeah, Ozzy's been doing.
Ozzy's been doing fucking work.
Uh,
So yeah,
Elm Sword has been running the quarterly contest.
yeah,
Yes,
like
thank you
shout out,
so much.
shout out to Elm Sword for the contest. Shout out to Ozzy for the book club. If you want to join the book club, it's real easy. Just if it's in our Discord, just let me know and I'll give you the
real quick.
appropriate role.
Real quick, Norky. So moving on.
I was waiting for a fuck you, and I was like, what did he do?
You mean our closet Lithuanian?
Right?
I thought he was Polish.
We don't know anymore.
He's clearly Czechoslovakian.
He's somewhere over
He was
there.
like, "Aha! I fooled you all. I am Lithuanian." And I was
Jokes on
like,
you. I
"Excuse
live
me?"
in Australia.
at this point, we're 90% certain he exists.
He is totally not a
The
figment of
only-
all of our collective imaginations.
I'm pretty sure the only person who has met him and can confirm his existence is Mabel.
But is Mabel real?
I don't know. Yeah, Mabel's a woman on the internet. Like, is she even real?
That is a good
I love you,
question.
Mabel. Please don't hurt me.
That is a good question.
So, so book club, Aussie, all that shit, fantastic. Elm Sword running the contest. Y'all have been a huge help to all of our moderators. Y'all are awesome, guys. Really appreciate it. And I know once again we suck, and thank you for being cool with that. Yeah. So
Quick, Mitchell got up. Take his chair.
go. Operation Chinese Fire Drill is a go. So yeah, this is the rant episode because, like we said previously, we're doing a different format where we have like one episode where we just kind of fuck around for like an hour or so to get all the rant out of our system, and then the actual episode is realistically probably still going to have some rants, but just not as much. We're going to kind of get
We're
the
gonna
juice
try
out
to be a little more on topic.
just a bit, and that way our actual lore episodes might end up being a little shorter because there's not as much dumb shit. Oh, is he seeing the smog?
what
I
happens.
don't know what you're talking about.
So just to give y'all an idea.
Me, Matt, and Phil have nicotine. me, Matthew, and Phil have nicotine problems.
Oh my god, it's actually kind of cold outside. I can open up my windows.
Oh my
We're over here at the time of our lives, and Mitchell's like, oxygen, please!
So to give
For
you,
the love of God!
to give you an idea, me, for those of you who know, you know, but me, Circe, and Matthew all have 2 battery mods with massive tanks, and we're just like, hey, Mitchell, you want to know what it feels like to be in an 1800s opium den?
I forget who told me about this, but the whole, like, take a shot when you hear a vape pit drinking game, how's that going for you guys?
Okay, guys, I gotta warn y'all. I do have neighbors. Let's keep it down.
Scream louder. Gotcha.
Okay, Matthew, we know how loud you can moan.
God,
Stop.
please, no.
Though I do think that's only a 1-person neighbor in that 2-bedroom.
So fuck them, basically.
So I don't. It's these, and I think it's 2 people who live in these, but they could be lesbians and they could be over there.
What does lesbians have to do with that one?
It's 2 women, and they're probably not.
I didn't hear that, and I was like, "What the fuck does that have to do with the position?"
They're
of the
probably
fucking
not
house?
in the not master bedroom.
Shit. I think
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. Gotcha.
I think that's all of the announcements, so we can get back to just like talking out of our ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, that's kind of been the 411 of what's been going on in our life. I mean, Matthew's been going through shit, but he's a new here, so fuck him.
I am but a figment of your imagination.
Yeah, no, that tracks. But yeah, so how have you guys been doing?
Well,
It all started when I was born.
Whale.
my marijuana patch. I mean, my lettuce.
Oh, my lettuce patch. Holy Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know about y'all, but I've been playing a lot of Tarkov recently.
You
We're
don't
not gonna talk
fucking
about
say.
it.
Oh yeah. Hey, but I want to talk about it, do.
I have lost years off my life from how much Tarkov
Okay.
we've been playing in the past,
Okay.
2 months?
So to give you all an idea,
It's been bad.
Yeah, no, it's been horrible. Escape from Tarkov. It's a game. When it first came out, myself, Matthew, Mitchell, we all played it kind of separately for a while. Not Matthew. Mitchell and I dropped it pretty quick because that game has a horrible cheating problem in PvP.
The wiggle that killed Tarkov.
Exactly. But recently, though, we discovered that there is a PvE mode where you play with you, your friends you bring with you, and no one else.
Yeah, I made the mistake of telling Matthew, who at one point in time, unless he's bullface lying to me, he was good enough at PvP Tarkov that he was thinking of going competitive. And I told him that I've always loved the shit out of the game, but like because PvE was so aggressively toxic, and I never really had anyone to teach me how to play correctly because Philip and Mitchell didn't play that long, and they were still relatively ish new as well. That I never really got the hang of it, but I've always loved the game because I'm a loot goblin at heart, and I fucking love that shit. And Matthew was like, so I see you have chosen death, and he promptly bought me the PvE expansion, and
Death
yeah,
of his social life.
it's fucking consumed my life. I am now like I'm pretty fucking good now. And yeah, I like my basically wife neglected, my chores neglected, my mental and physical health neglected, my bills neglected, my stash thick as fuck though.
Can confirm he may or may not have a problem with building excess amounts of
No,
weapons.
you have a problem of not having enough. A bullet for every fucking occasion.
No, I build guns as I deem necessary based on what I'm doing and the map we're going to.
Listen. I build guns for theoretical situations that may or may not ever happen. That is the way to go.
Okay. But real quick, though. Can we talk about that run we did last night where both of you brought in heavy fucking machine guns and just ran around with fucking 60-kilo kits?
Man, I'm wondering if there's anyone in our Discord or listeners that actually know this game because I'm about to start talking and it's probably going to sound like words that sound like they mean things, but people who don't know would be like, what the fuck?
There's 100% a good way to be too.
You can already tell that Mitchell's eyes are glazing over. He's just reading his phone right now.
I mean, that's fair.
I'm watching Facebook Reels. It's even worse.
Oh, fuck.
Save him!
He's doom scrolling.
bitch, if you're not using your mic, give me.
Here, have it.
But I might start speaking gibberish here for a
Dude,
second.
we're about to
So
start talking about Tarkov off, I am about to just blank out for the next 30 minutes, okay?
Actually, yeah, it's fair. Disclaimer: if you know nothing about Tarkov or don't care about Tarkov,
We're sorry.
Mute us for like the next 2 hours.
We apologize profusely.
So,
I don't apologize.
like, if you want this chair and y'all could just talk, I'll go hang out with my cats for a little bit.
Mitchell just straight fucking tips.
No.
Okay,
you're
how about
part
this?
of this
How about this?
podcast.
How about this? We'll put it on pause for 1 second, and we put it to a different topic that I want to talk about.
Okay.
So we've been looking at AOS model rules recently, and like, holy shit, 4th edition's kind of cracked. Yndrasta?
Baby boy.
Yeah.
Bruh, you want to take the
Wait.
you want to
Where
take
is he? There he is.
Where
It's
is
the boy.
Where is the autism cat? He tried to pick him up. The cat just went and fell out of his hands. Oh,
Matthew,
There's-
why would you do that to Hephaestus?
there's not enough brain matter in there to be damaged anyway.
Look, yeah, he has like 2 brain cells that are fighting for 3rd and 5th place. So like, I'm pretty sure I just rearranged his brain cells more effectively.
There we go.
I'm sorry, kitty cat, forgive.
Forgive.
Okay,
You?
to be clear though, Hephaestus is fine.
Yeah, no, he.
Yeah, no, he actually is
The
fine.
brain damage was from birth. Had nothing to do with this. I promise. Peter,
God, and the
Peter
brain
don't
damage.
at me.
He is such
And the
a
brain
stupid
damage.
cat.
And the brain damage.
And the brain damage.
But no, Phil, do you want to kind of take it away because you were looking at Andrasta first, and like she's actually fucking good now.
Oh yeah, no, that was absolutely insane. So Yndrasta, dude, think of our thick.
Pardon me, as I deal 20 fucking wounds to you in 1 turn,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
bruh. And she's finally anti-monster now. Like she was
It is
fucking.
so nice.
It's like I'm Sigmar's greatest monster hunter. Pulls out the Red Cross medic kit. Like what the fuck is this?
Yeah, now she's actually a dedicated monster hunter, and I love it.
Yeah, no, she's cracked as fuck. She does like extra rend now against monsters, which is fucking hilarious. Which is what it should have been, and can just do like an insane amount of damage. I think the Celicent Prime is actually at least more viable now. And if this is shit you'll already know, just know like this is the first time we've actually taken a peek at 4th edition, fucking in a while.
Wait a minute. I gotta actually.
Okay,
scroll
maybe
back.
Mitchell has done better than us, but like me and
Any
Phil.
army that is not cruel boys, half-naked dwarves, or bikini elves, that's really about
Whack.
it. Like that. That's it. Because that's all I have played with and played against.
That's fair. But yeah, no, it just the changes have been
The
nice
beat-
because it actually looks like shit's usable now, and things are what they're supposed to be. Because I remember a big problem with last edition was like things just didn't work how their lore works. So it's like, oh look, using Yndrasta again as an example. It's like, oh, she's a monster hunter. How does she hunt monsters? She doesn't.
She heal people.
She heal people, and that's
Yeah,
it.
The thing of our having anti-monster +1 rend like is pretty fucking hot, and then the ability doubling her damage against monsters. Oh my god!
I think between the shooting phase and fight phase, she can essentially do 20 wounds to a fucking monster unit,
Yeah, she can do 20 damage to a monster now,
which I think
potentially.
one taps the majority of monsters in the game. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I haven't seen other monster rules because like I haven't played.
Well, a lot of my knowledge
Against
is
monsters?
old, but if I remember correctly, a lot of the monsters capped out at like 16 or 18. There wasn't a whole lot that went over 20.
I think some of the hero monsters because like
Kragnos exists.
no, Kragnos is only 16.
Really?
Yeah,
He's
and then-
fucking huge.
But no, Karazay, the dragon, or 18. Sorry, Mitchell is correcting me from across the room. But no, Karazay the Scarred is now at like 20 wounds. So
What was he at before?
oh, don't get me lying. 16 to 20 somewhere in there.
So, but Yndrasta can now one tap the dragon.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Karazay doesn't have a ward.
I think
might. He might.
think
I don't know.
the
I don't
majority of the Mega Gargants all had above 20. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Mega Gargants were 20 to 25.
Yeah, that
Maybe,
makes sense.
Actually, no. I think the big one was 30.
Oh, that's fucking insanity.
Yeah, and then of course it couldn't be one tapped.
Guys,
Looks directly at the gash.
y'all haven't played Age of Sigmar in a hot minute. I don't think all of the information you're saying is completely
Oh,
wrong.
probably not. I'm pretty sure I've already said that. Like this
Wait,
is
did you
all
say
from.
completely wrong or completely right?
Completely wrong.
Oh, I
fuck.
mean, fucking probably. Like I said, I haven't looked at 4th edition. At least I haven't looked at 4th edition gameplay wise. We've been doing lore shit because.
Oh, it's so much fun. I just rolled nothing but Kilobot. I got so much cat hair in my mouth.
and the fuck?
Not gonna say it. Not gonna say it.
Don't say it.
Don't say it.
Don't do it.
Say
Not gonna say it.
Don't do it.
I'm not gonna say it. Okay, actually, so real shit. I have
Bitch,
a.
just put
I-
that
I-
penis in your mouth. And shut the fuck up.
so I got a question, and this is kind of in relation to a comment Sirius
Okay.
made earlier. Is
Okay,
Age
are
of
you
Sigmar-
about to put me on blast?
No.
Okay, I was like, hold on, motherfucker.
No, is Age of Sigmar and fantasy the same thing? Or
Oh
is
fuck,
he-
hold on, my time has come. Okay, Yershna.
Yershna.
Okay, so
what does Yershna mean?
okay, so Age of Sigmar takes place after fantasy. So fantasy, or what's now called the world that was the game that came out in was it the late or early 80s? I think it was early 80s.
A fucking while ago.
Yeah, and so that was Warhammer Fantasy. That was the first setting for Warhammer Fantasy, because Fantasy and 40K came out relatively close to each other. So you had your sci-fi and you had your fantasy.
And I believe fantasy came out first.
Yes, Fantasy did come out first.
because specifically Warhammer started making models for D&D.
Yes. So the fantasy world is gone. It blew up because you had end times and shit and whatnot. So, but basically, all you have to know is that fantasy was a long fucking time ago, and essentially, the rats / chaos won. The world bloated up, and everyone, quote unquote, died.
And the Winds of Magic made every single realm.
Yeah. So what happened is essentially the Winds of Magic they did not get destroyed when the world did. They essentially X amount of years later. Coalesced with essentially the debris and stardust and magic fairy bullshit and whatever the fuck else was out in the void, and they coalesce into the 8 mortal realms, which is why every realm is named after the wind of magic that made it. So in fantasy, if you were talking about Shaiish, you were talking about the wind of magic Shaiish, which was death. If you're talking about heaven, it'd be Azir, because that's the wind of magic Azir, which is heaven. Now they're actually whole ass, I don't know how many they are or if they're many at all, but they're planets essentially. And so what happened was,
Excuse me?
if you fucking bring up that flat earth bullshit, I'm gonna punch you in the throat right now.
Discs.
I'm gonna mute for a second. I have to commit grievous physical violence upon ye. Anywho,
I would also like to mention
you
they
are
all-
within titty twisting range. I just want you to know that.
Did you strengthen your
I would-
titties?
You didn't strengthen your titties.
I would like
Big
to
stand. If you know, you know.
I would like to pass the speaking stick on at this point.
So just so I understand kind of what you're saying so far, Sirius, is that
You
fantasy...
clearly haven't watched any of our podcasts.
Hey, I'm getting there. So
I mean, to be fair, we don't do videos, so there's nothing to watch.
also valid. So
I will stab you in your fucking eyes.
Hey, I would just like to point out the TSTC motto is technically better.
So like I was saying,
Woosah.
so fantasy led into AOS in terms of like story and lore. Is
Oh,
that pretty much
100%.
correct? Okay,
And
okay,
so
okay.
the big, real world speak here. The big driving force behind the
Money.
Yeah, the big driving force behind going from fantasy to AOS was A, money, and B, basically the stories had just gotten too bloated.
So, actually, here's the real reason. A can of Wraithbone. A can of Wraithbone spray.
Oh, rattle cans, like spray paint.
Like that entire line, just that one color of primer, outsold Tomb Kings and Bretonia.
Yeah, there is a point where the paint was making more money for them than the actual models.
Yeah, a singular line of paint.
Yeah.
Just a
and
singular
big-
line of color. Just a singular color.
A color
of
was outselling the
primer.
plastic crack.
Was outselling it.
And so
Hang on, can we pause real quick? Mitchell, there is something attached to your chin, and I don't know what it is. I think it's cat hair.
It's probably cat hair.
I don't know, but
not
it
that man's
holds it.
glorious 5 o'clock shadow.
Right side of your chin. Okay, Phil got it. There we go.
Yeah, Hephaestus sheds.
Touch me. Touch me harder.
You shedding a lot.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and so that money, a definite big
Even
point.
more.
Also bloat, and what I mean by bloat is so 40K and fantasy both had the same problem, and the problem was, like Phil had said, the stories had gotten very, very convoluted, and a big issue was like when 40K and fantasy first came out. I forget if fantasy was super like grimdark or if it was marketed as such, but 40K was very much like grimdark. It's supposed to be fucked up.
But it was also satirical, almost along the lines of like Judge Dredd.
It was grim dark. It was grim dark, grim derp. It was meant to be so over the top and like horrible that it was funny at times. Sometimes it was just horrible, and other times it was funny. So a lot of the storytelling that happened, I'm going to assume this for 40K a little bit, but I'm just talking about fantasy. A lot of the stories and the lore that was given back in like the 80s and 90s didn't really fly with, things in like the 2000s, the 2010s. Like, it was pretty fucking rough.
Call them what they are. The naughties.
Yeah. There was a little bit of fantasy lore that was a little rapey. Anywho,
I'm looking at you, Beast of Chaos.
We won't talk about the Demunculaba.
that's 40K and ugh. But so like a lot of the lore, didn't really fly with like society as we're moving forward, and also B, it was just super convoluted because if I remember correctly, at least in the beginning, a lot more work went into fantasy's lore and whatnot than 40K. Like, they both had lots of books, but like fantasy had like a fuck ton of stories. And because this was before G-Dubs really got a hold of their authors and were like, hey, stop being fucking contradictory for the love of God. But basically, like, you would grab 19 books and every single book would have something that would either validate or invalidate something in another book. And it wasn't because they were trying to do that. It's because they just weren't controlled. Like, controlled is the wrong word.
Quality control.
Yeah, there wasn't great quality control. And 40K had this problem too. I don't think it was as bad, but 40K had this problem too.
So the big issue with 40K was that a lot of the stories contradicted on timelines. That was the big thing.
They just managed to find a way around that.
Yeah, and then whenever they released 8th edition and they made Gilliman come back, it's like literally a throwaway line in, I think...
it's when Gilliman's like, why the fuck are there 17 different types of ways to tell the date?
Yeah, and that's basically like how they're Deus Ex Machina, the fact that like, oh, hey, here's Morinius Calgar in this one system fighting this war, and then literally 3 days later he's across the Imperium fighting another war, and it's like, that doesn't fucking fly.
And the setting of 40K was able to get around it because it's the galaxy, and it's already stated that when humanity goes in the warp to go to a different place in the galaxy, like, it can take a week, it can take 30,000 years, who fucking knows?
But also
fantasy couldn't do that.
Yeah, but also like the period of time for the people on the ship changes as well, and it can lead to a lot of really convoluted stuff.
40K had the ability to be like wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and that's why shit don't make sense. Fantasy was just one planet. It didn't really have that ability.
Yeah, and the other big issue was they basically always had this prophecy called the end times, and unfortunately someone early on had kind of set a date for it, sort of
kind of ish maybe.
Yeah. And so like as they kept writing stories and they kept moving the story along, they very quickly came up on the end times, and it's like, fuck, we either need to like change some of our like base storytelling.
Fuck our story even more than it already is.
Or we need to do this now and find somewhere else to go with it.
So basically a combination of really not performing well money-wise, being very bloated and convoluted with the story, and accidenting the end times. They were like, fuck it, TWANFO. TWANFO, if anyone doesn't know, is an acronym for Take Off and Nuke It from Orbit. And that's exactly what they did. They had this big thing called the end times. The end times is basically watch as we kill everything you love and hold dear. Watch we kill all of it, and really stupid. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And so when they restarted with AOS, they're like, cool. We're gonna have our quality control. We're gonna make sure our writers don't do stupid fucking shit. We're gonna make sure our lore is tight. We're gonna have a good model range. We're gonna da 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 da. And they really got their shit together.
The other big thing they did is they basically didn't introduce a calendar, and they were like, hey, we have the ages. You want to get more specific than that? Well, these people are alive. These people aren't. That's about as specific as we're going to get. So we can cram as many stories as we want into whatever age we want, and it all makes sense.
Yeah, they got smart enough to stop dealing with exact dates and times so they could be a lot more lenient with their stories. Because it's a big problem. It's like, this happened on the 8th of November in the year 928. And then another writer is like, well, I was going to do something with that too. And then there wasn't quality control, so they fucking did it. And then it was like, why is this character in two places at once? And they're like, and they just couldn't. There was no way for them to explain it without being like, whoopsies or fuck you.
Yeah, and now at this point, they can basically just say, oh, hey, we're going to use this character. Okay, cool. These are the time periods in which they are busy and they have established timelines. Cool. We want to keep using this character, so we're just going to...
avoid those.
Yeah, avoid those times and dates.
So 40K got retconned. Fantasy got blowed the fuck up. And it's...
Careful with the retcon word there.
All right. And it's kind of a pretty commonly felt sentiment that end times wasn't really handled well. A lot of the ways that, people died or ended or things moved on just felt very rushed and unsatisfying. I'm not saying that for everyone. From what I'm aware, it's a very commonly held sentiment is that end times was rushed. And I can't exactly blame them because, like I said, they weren't making any money. So I can understand them wanting to get it back on track. But yeah, end times was kind of fucking ass. And shit got wacky. Like, for instance, my favorite thing is talking about the Skaven and the lizardmen is because when I say the rats and chaos one, this is before the rats were part of chaos, and how the rats one is they hurled the moon at the planet with a tractor beam.
Oh,
Yeah. But like so that's when you had like the Vermintide is when the Skaven came out in force during end times, and they were like, oh yeah, and there's like trillions of Skaven now, and it's like if there were this many fucking rats, how the fuck had they not already won? And it's like, oh well, like they weren't really unified, and I'm like, no, they were like clans, individual clans had like billions of rats, and like. If individual clans were that fucking strong, how in the flying fuck did they not just pounce out of the ground and fucking eat everyone? Because like Skaven, the race as a whole, yeah, not unified as fuck, but clans more or less normally had their shit together, at least enough to be like, hey, this is the big rat, and the big rat tells us what to do, and they would do it normally. So like, it was shit like that where things got so drastically scaled to what the fuck that it was like, if it was this bad or if there was this many, if they were this powerful, what the fuck? Why is it happening now? Or why is it happening in this way? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then we're not going to talk about the fact that half of the Lizardman heroes that I love and hold dear weren't even fucking in the end times.
So I would also like to bring up the point that I don't even think with the relaunch of Old World that fantasy is even still selling well. I don't think many people have even picked it up because they're like GW kind of caved in or they're like, hey, everybody wants to play Old World. They're really reminiscent of it. They're constantly buying Total War Warhammer. I don't ever see any YouTube videos of Old World. I don't ever see anybody going like, hey, I want to play some Old World. Anybody want to play some Old World? Like,
isn't Old World still pretty young as a game?
No.
How
It's been out for a couple of years now, I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was like barely even a year. Ooh,
Yeah.
wow, okay. Well, they have AOS now, so like, fuck it. If they're gonna waste some money on Old World, so the people who are bitchy about end times still will shut the fuck up. I kind of get it.
I never see any like news about it on Warhammer Community. It's like on some shelves at the local game store. I think Conquest moves more.
Well, is Old World them reusing old models, or are they actually making new models for it?
No, they're using a lot of old models.
That's probably why.
but my Old World.
I have trouble getting super bitchy at the people who still complain about end times, because for a long time I was one of them because I just really didn't like how it ended. So I get it. I get being mad about it, but it's also been like 10 years. So like, there's a certain point where it's like, take the L and move on.
Also, Age of Sigmar is just a really good game.
My only issue with Age of Sigmar, and this I think I said before, is like, Age of Sigmar can be a little too mental, if that makes sense. Like when they're describing and talking about their shit, there's sometimes where I read Age of Sigmar and I'm like, this is more sci-fi than 40k. Like with how they talk about shit and like their definitions and their names and shit, and I'm just like, these are words that exist, I think.
So
like, what I love about fantasy is like it very much felt fantasy, and Age of Sigmar is fantasy. Don't fucking at me with that shit. It's very much fantasy, and I do fucking love AOS, but there are times where I'm like, what the fuck are these letters in this particular order?
So, we're gonna get into a completely different rant, and fantasy is one of my favorite. It's not absolutely my favorite genre of stuff. Like, it is just I don't care about sci-fi too much. I like space fantasy, but like
Star Wars 40k basically is space fantasy.
Yes, but fantasy like
we're talking ye old Lord of the Rings shit here.
Lord of the Rings, Sword of Shannara,
Sword of Shannara is not fantasy.
Yes, it is. It's high fantasy.
No, it's like, it's post-apocalyptic.
This is the part where Mitchell and Phil get into a dick fighting contest for about 30 minutes. Just so you
Dude,
know.
literally the first book is just the three Lord of the Ring books in one.
Enjoy it. It's quite a sight.
Dude, no, it's post-apocalyptic,
Okay,
my guy.
we're moving.
money's
Anyway,
Mitchell.
moving on.
The Wheel
No!
the Wheel of Time. I absolutely love all these genres. Where was I going with
You should
this?
watch the Godzilla rant between me and Mitchell in like the 6th episode. Shit got heinous.
Yeah.
We actually saw Cersei and Mitchell screaming at each other at the top of their lungs. It was pretty funny.
Initially!
Where was I going with this entire rant?
You absolutely
You
love fantasy, but
you love fantasy. I don't know if there was a but, but it was him talking about how fantasy
it
is his
sounded
favorite
like he was
genre.
working up to a but.
I love fantasy more than like space fantasy and stuff like that.
Sci-fi and whatnot.
Yeah.
God, where was I going with
Well, what I was talking about beforehand was how like sometimes AOS can get a little too mental and a little too like.
Oh, I remember.
high top,
Thank you.
It feels almost like sci-fi sometimes.
Thank you. The names in the Age of Sigmar piss me
cool,
off.
okay,
so
cool. I'm not the only one.
They piss me
We
off.
never
so
talked about this in the fucking like 50 fucking episodes. I read these names sometimes and I'm like, what are you?
I'm sitting there like trying to like do my research, and I'm like, why? I've been stuck on this name trying to decipher it for the past 2
It's gotten to the point where there's names in Age of Sigmar that are just words that we use in everyday actual human life. They're just spelt like NVIDIA. The attack of the graphics cards that we're gonna get into our lore video.
But it's just
Hashtag
like,
Team Green.
it pisses me off because they're like,
Fuck up, you bitch.
I'm Team Red. Get out.
Team Red, bitch.
I don't know what any of this
Hey,
is
if I
about.
could find one, I would have an A&D card. I'm gonna keep it a buck. with
Wait,
you.
hold on. What?
Team Green is Nvidia. Team Red is AMD.
3080, baby.
Bitch, you run an AMD processor.
Shut the fuck up.
7 to 900 GRE.
Listen, my shit was free, so I'll take what's cheapest.
But I think that's one of the big things is so much easier getting the 40k lore because you can just look at the words and understand them.
It is so fucking wild that when you're looking at 40k shit and you're like, yep, this makes sense, and then you go to AOS and it's like, why?
Like, for me, it's how easily some of the more Latin-esque terms translate into like easy use.
And that's a big one.
Because like in 40k they'll be like, oh yeah, call him over the Vox, and then it's like, okay, and I use my helmet to switch channels to the Vox channel, and it's like, oh okay, we're talking about radio, gotcha.
Yeah, or they would talk about about different organizations. It's called like the Adeptus, and I don't know Latin, but I'm assuming that has Latin ties at least. Like there's
Yeah, and it's like you figure out pretty quick, oh, okay, this is
there's
some kind of government
semi-real world
organization.
ties, but then you get into fucking AOS, and it's like, yes, the optinomric fucking noonless fucking whatever the shit, and it's like, what the fuck, dude?
They push the fantasy names to the extreme, and it just pisses me off.
I have a
so
theory.
much.
I have a theory. This is the other reason why we have AOS instead of fantasy is trademark.
No, really,
not trade. No, just trademark or patent. Yeah.
Trademark copyright.
You can't put a trademark on orcs. Or you can put a trademark on uruks. You can't put a trademark on elf. You can put a trademark on elf, which is AEL, whatever the fuck.
AELVES.
You can't put a trademark on,
dwarves, but you can put a trademark on fire slayers.
Mm-hmm. So another big reason as to why AOS happened is so basically GW can go like, these are our names, and if you use them, we're gonna ruin your fucking life by probably sending in the Pinkertons. Looks directly at Hasbro. So another reason why I think these names tend to be so fucking autistic is if they need to, they can just slap that little TM in the right hand side.
But at that point, it kind of works against them because it just makes reading the books or reading just the
A living fucking nightmare, yeah.
because you no longer
There's a reason I would rather dive into the fucking Horus Heresy book series that has like 52 books in it.
I think it's closer to 70 now.
And no, I do
if you count all the extra
right,
stuff.
and I do read AOS books because I kind of have to. But like, it's like I would rather dive into the clusterfuck that is the Horus Heresy. You know what I mean?
I never actually pronounce the names in my head when it comes to the actual names in the books.
Do you nickname them too?
I just kind of go like, cool, pattern of letters. Make note of that. Move along.
I either give them like 3-letter nicknames, or I just straight go the Phil route and call it the Thumb. I'm like, oh yeah, they have to attack this city that has a name because they have to go after the thing they lost, and it's called the Thumb. And my brain's like, this works for me. What we have to go get the almighty Thumb from the dude with the name in the city with also letters because of the Thumb. And I'm like, yep, this is okay with me. My brain, this vibes for my brain.
Okay, but no, going back to Philip. Sword of Shannara is not fantasy.
It's like, I didn't forget about you, motherfucker. Sit back, relax.
No, stop. Thank you for agreeing with me, Mitchell.
Wait a minute. No. It's literally
Dude, he is bright red right now.
There's trolls. There's dwarves.
Okay,
there's
hold
elves
on.
in it. How's it not fantasy?
Would you consider super mutants from Fallout to be trolls?
Gershna?
Okay, hang on. This actually gets into a really interesting topic that I really enjoyed discussing about. Sorry, Matthew, I'm stealing the microphone.
Look how Matthew's been trying to talk and Phil's like, move, bitch.
Okay, so no, this is actually a really interesting topic that I really like discussing. So this harkens back all the way to Tolkien. Tolkien set the precedence
granddaddy
for writing of when you are writing a fantasy setting and you use words that are familiar to your readers, and it's like, wait a minute. Why are we talking about bread made from flour when this is a fantasy world and like the actual grain flour doesn't necessarily exist there? And it's like, no, yeah, this is something completely. And then Tolkien set this precedent, and now it's one that basically every writer uses. Of just no, we are assuming that any story that has been written in fiction has been translated into English, and so that it is now easy to understand by the reading audience.
Yeah.
That is the precedent that Tolkien set. Having said that, in something like
Professor Philip, will this be on the exam?
Yes. In something like The Sword of Shannara, which is set in the distant future after an apocalypse, you can have something that the characters would call a troll, but we as the reading audience could actually infer
like could be a super mutant or something.
Hang on, let me finish. We as the audience can actually infer that this is like a super mutant from Fallout. It's like, oh, okay, we can we as
someone
the reader,
from that time period or whatever, it could just be a troll to them.
Yeah, they would call it a troll, but we as someone who has potentially more knowledge,
it's a scientific nightmare made by the darkest recesses of men's minds.
Yeah. And if you want to get into something like that, there was a series. I'm gonna forget what it's called, but like. And it was and this is the reason I don't think of Sword of Shannara as fantasy. There was a science fiction series I read that when you first started reading it, you thought it was fantasy because there are wizards in it. But what you figure out is that this is actually a science. Once you get to like the third or fourth or fifth book, you actually figure out, no, this is a science fiction series. This is a population of humanity that went out into the stars and became isolated from Earth for XYZ reason. And then a mutation occurred in the humans that some of them can now they're basically psychics.
Okay.
Like not AOS, like 40K psychics. And there are still like humans out traveling the stars, but this one population had a hard technological regression because they had a group kind of similar to the tech priests that like hoarded knowledge and then ended up losing a bunch of it. And so it is fantasy, and it is low fantasy initially to get started, and that's what it looks like, but it actually is science fiction.
So would it be fair to say that to a certain extent you're both kind of right?
Technically, yes.
So yeah, because the Sword of, I'm going to pronounce it,
Olive Branch.
I'm sorry for stealing this, Matthew.
And
there he goes.
The entirety of the book series of Shannara or Shannara. Nobody knows.
Shanana. Hey.
For the longest period of time, the genre high fantasy was dying, and this is what kind of revitalized it. And it gets a lot of its criticisms because the first book is just a copy and paste of the first 3 books of Lord of the Rings, and
yeah, I won't argue that Sword of Shannara is important in fiction.
Yeah, well, in fantasy.
Well, fiction in general, but yes, fantasy.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that you need to look at the book in the time frame that it was written, in a time frame that a lot of fantasy was written not in books but in magazines, and it was more about the morals,
looking at you, white dwarf,
like the morals of a dwarf or something like that. And it was kind of, a lot of people just wanted to be able to get lost in an adventure and just read and be cozy about it.
So what I'm getting from this is, like, at the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to a matter of perspective.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's high fantasy.
It really
Fuck you, Philip. It's high fantasy.
Oh no, I'm gonna say something really inflammatory.
Oh,
the Stormlight Archive is sci-fi.
Oh fuck!
I'm willing to agree more with that.
I haven't even read the books, and I know some people are like, "Listen here, motherfucker."
Oh no, I can hear Ozzy coming from my blood.
Dude, this episode's gonna drop, and like 30 minutes later, Ozzy's gonna be like, "I'm gonna be under your fucking bed."
So
you have summoned to me. Well, hold on, just backpedal hellaciously.
Oh no.
Does that more or less answer your question?
Oh no, yeah, it 100% does. Because I never really knew the difference. I actually always assumed that they were pretty much one and the same thing to some degree.
I mean, to a certain extent, they kind of are. It's just like, one became the other. They're not so different where it's like they're completely separated. Because there are characters that came from fantasy that went on, like Archeon's there, Sigmar's there,
Hashtag fuck Archeon.
Grimnar's.
No. Hashtag Malekith.
My man. My bad. Didn't say it. Hashtag Malekith. Haven't brought that one back in a while. Grimnir's left nuts in there. Fucking, Marathi's in there. Malarion. Hashtag Malekith. There are a lot of characters that even as AOS grew, they came back. Like, I think, when did we get hinted that Grombrindle is in there now?
He's literally in his own book.
Yeah. So they do still occasionally bring characters from fantasy back, like when they brought back Gotrek and whatnot. So like they're separate. There's a pretty big separation between them, but it's not so big that like you don't see anything from the other.
Gotcha.
The biggest difference between fantasy and AOS is, at least as far as I can tell, you get a lot less of the political intrigue in general. Okay. Because it's very much like, especially when it comes to like, the cities of Sigmar, because ultimately almost every nation is in a state of total war. And so it's very much, hey, you're in a city of Sigmar. We worship Sigmar. We are beholden to Sigmar. Do you serve Sigmar? Yes? Cool. Then you're going to do this. Oh, you didn't do this? Cool. You're a traitor. We're going to fucking kill you.
Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Sigmar? Yeah. But yeah, so do you have any other questions while we're talking? Or do you just want to hear us ramble and think of something else?
I got another thing.
No, but there was one thing I did want to say. Is I actually,
Mitchell, fuck you, buddy.
Right?
Okay.
I actually agree with Mitchell on, like, don't get me wrong, I love...
Never mind, he's vindicated. Shit, Phil, put him down.
I do love, sci-fi fantasy, like Warhammer, Star
Get the
Trek.
bolt gun.
Get the flamer, the heavy flamer.
Hans, get the Flammenwerfer.
No. I'm talking about the actual bolt gun that they used to put down cattle.
Oh, no.
Speaking... Okay, hold on.
No country
Hold
road,
on,
man.
Can I have a tangent real quick?
Okay, first of all, let's get Matthew's question out into the open so, like, one of us doesn't
Okay,
forget it.
I have a tangent waiting, though.
Yeah.
This is more
About the cattle book thing you just said.
Yeah.
This is more a statement than anything, but, like, I appreciate, sci-fi fantasy like that because it's cool when there's things in there like Warhammer, bolt guns, Space Marines, Dreadnought, stuff like that, but fantasy like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. Would you classify Game of Thrones as fantasy?
It's
low
low
fantasy.
I'm creating an entire campaign based off of low fantasy.
Oh, that's right. I remember you talking about that. But realistically,
Earthsea. I think Earthsea's like middle fantasy. Because
I don't remember Earthsea.
It's not quite high, but it's not quite low. It's pretty middle. But Earthsea's it's older, but that's a really good one. I'll read those books you have, and they're fantastic.
But like in my opinion, realistically, anyone can kind of, with a grain of talent, can make sci-fi anything and it be some good, some semblance of good. Whereas like fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, etc., anything akin to that is much, much harder to nail and make good.
There's been so much done in fantasy that it's almost not 100%, but it's almost impossible to have a fantasy setting that is completely and totally unique because there's been so much. Because even if you have something that is realistically 115% unique, there's almost always going to be at least one thing that ties back to Tolkien, probably.
Yeah.
Just because like the bones of fantasy are so set in stone that it's a lot easier. Because sci-fi, you can go 30 million years in the future. And it's cool. I have a gun that shoots black holes because fuck you or whatever the shit. But like fantasy, you there's a certain box that like you can poke and prod, but you're kind of stuck in.
Every single sci-fi can be traced back to Dune.
Yeah, it's
fair.
Dune. There's an actual book called Space Marine. And it's like, it's completely unrelated to Games Workshop. It was written, actually, I think, right around or right before Dune. But like Dune, Space Marine, and Starship Troopers. That's like kind of
Starship Troopers. Yeah, which is funny. You know what Starship Troopers started off as initially?
What?
It was I don't want to say like full blown like political satire, but essentially when the book was written to essentially poke fun at was it fascism?
No.
Or was it?
No. The book was written as a commentary on...
Yes, a comment about why this is bad. And then everyone took it and they're like, this is cool as fuck.
It was written as a commentary on, like, fascism and war and things like that. Like, It was pretty anti-war
But the whole point is it was supposed to make a book that was so over the top with it that it's supposed to be like, hey, these are the reasons why it's bad, right?
No, you're thinking of the movie. The movie is almost completely different from the book.
Oh, okay. I haven't read the book.
Yeah, no, the book is very serious. And very much, because it's basically, if I remember correctly, because it's on my to-read list, but I haven't gotten to it yet. If I remember correctly, the story revolves around Rico basically writing in his journal. And that's kind of the premise of the story. And him going from, like, the hot-blooded youth who joined the war and saw his home fucking destroyed and going off to fight the bugs. And then by the end of the book, it's like, I am a shell of a man. I have lost so many friends, and so much horrible shit has happened, and what has it all been for?
That's like the things they carried.
I don't think I've read that book either.
But I could
Would
have
you like to borrow it? It's honestly one of my favorite books of all time.
Maybe.
But I could have
It's by
sworn
Tim O'Brien.
Oh, yeah.
I could have sworn that the book itself was also kind of anti-fascism and
No, absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
It
but
is.
that is accurate. 'Cause, like that's the big one that I remembered is the book was also like fascism, war, that type of shit. Whack.
Yeah.
But it was a much more seriously toned. Also, Starship Troopers was, I don't want to say the first, but definitely one of the first to actually have the concept of what we would now call a Space Marine. Heavily armored, mechanized infantry that walk around big power suits and blow shit up.
Yeah. And not
It's not the first, but it's one of the first to
it's-
really be popular.
It's not so much about Space Marines. It's more. It focuses more on the the power of an individual soldier. Because one thing that they kind of downplay in the movie that is
Rico is
very
like one of the
common-
reasons humanity still exists to a certain extent.
Not so much. One of the things they play up more in the book that they downplay in the movie is like, yeah, basically every soldier is armed with a tactical nuke, and like part of it is going. Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, you know how they talk about like, oh yeah, the little tactical nuke rocket launcher that they have. Yeah, no, like all of them are basically armed to the fucking teeth, and everyone is capable of committing horrendous amounts of destruction and things
Like
like
100 soldiers could probably blow up a planet if they really wanted to.
that. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah, that was actually so funny thing. My grandfather actually really liked Starship Troopers, and that was the funny thing is he actually didn't like the movie so much because it was so goofy.
Which is funny because I remember correctly, the movie doesn't like try to be goofy. It just kind of is.
No, they did.
Was it on purpose?
Yeah, so that's actually the
Okay.
funny thing is the director intentionally set out to make Starship
Just to
Troopers
be as
into
overblown as possible.
He intentionally set out to try and make it more of a satire. And then that was the funny thing is that everyone fucking loved it, and he was like, "What the fuck?"
Wait a minute, that's illegal. This was your plan from the start.
And then we get the sequels that we won't talk about.
Oh god, yeah, no.
Okay.
Spaceballs.
There were certain aspects of the second one that I enjoyed.
That much
certain
is fair.
aspects.
And I do agree with
But
that.
the whole, like, the third one with it being, like, the brain bug that's the size of the planet, but also, like, Christianity was a backline to it, that one got weird.
Yeah, no, that was so ridiculous.
Like the one of the last fucking words was like, "I found God again." And it's like, how did we get from gigantic planet-sized space bugs to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And I'm not talking shit about Christianity. I just find it it was just wild as fuck to
That
me that
reminds me
they were
of-
like running parallel the entire time. It's like, "Go forth, my child, warriors of Christ."
So there's this old Christian movie that there's just a meme, and it's like the very last like 4 words, and it's like, "Hey Brian, Jesus man."
Oh, it's fucking great. I love it. Holy shit. Wait, can I tangent out now?
Yes.
Okay. So I watched.
So anyway,
that wasn't a tangent.
I mean, it was, but it wasn't my tangent. I watched a movie recently called Jackpot. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
It's
No,
free.
I can't say I have.
It's free on Prime right now. The main characters are John Cena and God, how do you say her name? Aquafina, I think is how you say her name. The Asian actress.
Yeah, no, I know who you're talking about.
So the whole point of the movie is the first 30 seconds of the, and just know this movie came out in 2024. The
Okay.
first 30 seconds of when the Great Depression of 2026 happened, and I was like, oh fucking Christ.
Accurate.
The premise of the movie is essentially both the public and the government of California drastically needed money, so the new government kind of have a type of purge where essentially there's something called the Grand Lottery. Spoilers ahead, by the way. It's actually a pretty funny thing. I'd recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. For a free movie, it slapped. The whole point is you have these little things you like put your thumbprint on, and you are in the lottery. And if you win the lottery, you don't have to pay for a ticket. Oh, you probably do have to pay for a ticket. But the point is, if you win the lottery,
The point is, if you use the thumb,
if you use a thumb, if you make it to sundown without dying, you win the money. If someone murders you, if another lottery player murders you, they get the money. And they don't have to survive. They just have to kill you. But you can't use guns. That's the big point. And so Aquafina's character,
Yeah, that sounds like California.
she like accidentally wins the lottery, and it's the biggest lottery at $3.6 billion.
Okay.
And John Cena plays. There's this new job that sprang from it called protection agencies, where basically you pay them like 10%, 20%, 30% of your jackpot, and they will protect you until sundown. And that's who John Cena's character is. He's not a big. He's a one man company essentially, and the whole point of the movie is him trying to get Aquafina's character like alive, to keep her alive. And the type of shit they use to kill people is hilarious. One of the guns that they carry is just a cattle bolt pistol. They go and they just pop you in the head with it. And you said that it jogged my memory, and it's wild as shit because there's just people walking around with like shotguns loaded with rubber bullets and shit. People wear high heels that have like knives in them, so they can spontaneously, as they need to, just tack knife somebody with a high heel and all kinds of crazy shit like that. It's a wild movie. The pacing is a little weird at times, but honestly, it was pretty funny. And I think the entire movie, to a certain extent, was like kind of meta with the whole like the Great Depression of 2026, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know. But it was actually it was pretty fucking funny, and I actually really enjoyed it. But you said the whole the bolt gun cattle thing, and I was like, I just saw a movie that had that in there, and it was actually really funny.
You want to talk about another movie that had a bolt gun in it? Upgrade.
Oh God.
No. First, the best movie. No Country for
The
Old Men.
Land Before Time.
God. Did you say The Land Before Time? You bitch. Fuck you for shitting on my childhood.
I actually didn't appreciate No Country for Old
Dude,
Men
that
the
movie
first time I
fucked me
watched
up.
it. Yeah, and then I went back, I think it was like a year and a half ago, and rewatched it, and I actually have a pretty decent appreciation for the movie now. It's pretty solid.
Do you know what makes the ending so important?
I'm gonna be honest, I've never actually seen it.
So the ending is, I forget the dude's name, but the super fucking bad villain guy who murders everyone, the one dude from the Mexican cartel, when he walks out of the lady's house and like wipes his feet off and whatnot, it's very clear that, spoilers ahead, that he killed the wife at the end. And then he almost dies in a car crash right after. The thing that's important is the wife was the only person that gave him agency over his actions, because he's always like, he's always seen himself as an inevitability, and realistically, if he kills you, it's actually your fault for being in his way. And the best thing he can do for you is Harvey dent your ass with the coin and like call it heads or tails. If you lose, I kill you. That's been his shtick the entire movie, and he does it to her, and she's like, no, I'm not going to pick the coin, because the coin has nothing to do with this. You do. You are the one who's doing this. You make your own choices. And it kind of unnerved him for a second, because he was like, I've never had agency over my own actions, because I've always seen myself as an inevitability. So the fact that she's like, no, I'm not going to choose. If you're going to kill me, it's because you're killing me. It's not because the coin chose. It's not because I chose. It's because I'm sitting here and putting my feet in the ground and saying, if you do this, it is your action and it's on you. And it rattled him, because he actually went against his principles, because he didn't flip the coin or anything, and she hadn't done anything to him to warrant him killing her. But he killed her anyway. And that's why when he walked out and he's kind of sitting there kind of weird, and then he himself almost died in that car crash. The whole point of that ending scene was the fact that like she had, even though she still died, she was the only character to successfully defy him and to a certain extent beat him, is because she, to a certain extent, forced him to go against his own morals and take agency for the fact that he's the one who's doing the killing. He's not just this act of act of God that happens because of your own actions.
It's also got Josh Brolin in it. So
I gotta watch the movie again.
That movie is fucking rough to watch, but it's such a good movie.
I watched it when I was like 12.
That was not an appropriate age to watch that movie. I watched it when I was 13. Yeah! High five for parents who did not watch their children enough. I used to go to the bed watching The Exorcist.
Let's talk about how at the age of 5 was the first time I ever watched The Thing.
Let's talk about at the age of 4 was when I watched Alien for the first time.
Okay, so when I was in the 3rd grade, I watched It for the first time, like the old school It. It was either
Tim Curry. Tim Curry's It, right?
And I watched it. I watched it at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh God.
I was afraid to take a dump for a week.
So this is the story about why Cersei slept with a nightlight until he was 15. At the ripe age of 4 years old, do you know what movie my dad thought would be hilarious to show me?
What?
Y'all ever heard of a movie called Darkness Falls?
No.
I've never seen it.
Darkness Falls is essentially a movie about a old woman's spirit who's essentially a fucking demented tooth fairy that kills you if you look at her or if you lose a tooth, and she only exists in the dark. That's the whole fucking premise of the movie, and I watched it when I was fucking 4, and I could not be alone in the dark until I was fucking 15, because every fucking time I heard that crackly little bitch in my head, and I was like, this is when I die. And then, because I love you, Dad, because my dad's a fucking bitch. You know what movie I watched at the ripe age of fucking 9? The Boogeyman. I am still uncomfortable in closets. And on top of that, have y'all seen the original Boogeyman movie?
I've never seen
Okay,
it at all.
there's a
God,
scene.
I got super glue. What the hell?
We got some more super glue right there.
I think this one's dried out.
Okay, but it's still like a super glue container.
But I got super glue.
There is a part in the point of the Boogeyman is essentially a kid has an overactive imagination, and he accidentally like essentially thinks the Boogeyman into existence, and he promptly kills his mom. But there's a point in the Boogeyman where I forget this chick's about to take a bath, and she turns the tub, the faucet on, and a bunch of really rusty, murky water comes out, and she's like, oh, that's weird. And then the Boogeyman comes out of the fucking water, sucks her into the tub, and she fucking disappears because she's dead. Oh. I'm gonna give you one guess as the color of the water in the bathtub was when I took a bath exactly 2 hours after I watched that movie.
Was it like a rusted brown kind of blood color?
I screamed bloody fucking murder in the middle of my grandparents' house, who were promptly like 72 and like 86 at the time, and I'm in the bathroom screeching so loud that my grandmother thought that I had slipped and like cut myself with a razor and like fucking like slit my face open or something horrible because I was screaming so loud. And they came in, and I'm just sitting there screaming, "The Boogeyman's gonna get me," because it was fucking that same color water, and I couldn't take a bath for a week. And I'm still fucking uncomfortable in closets. So yeah, fuck you, Dad. Love you.
The movie that fucked me up, I think I was like 8 years old, living in Cleveland, Texas at the time, and my parents and my older stepsister were watching...
I'm sorry.
Right? Right?
No, that's the horror movie. You lived in Cleveland.
They were
There's
watching...
gonna be someone in Cleveland who's gonna be like, I'm going to find you,
No,
and I'm going to kill you.
It's worse because it wasn't in Cleveland, Ohio. It was Cleveland, Texas.
Yeah, no, Cleveland,
Even worse.
Texas is Houston, Texas Junior, essentially, as far as I'm concerned. I hated it. But my horror movie as a kid was fucking Jeepers Creepers.
Oh,
Jeepers,
God.
Yeah.
creepers.
Yeah.
Gonna get those eyes.
Yeah, and like the scene that stood out to me as a kid, because like my mom and dad were like, "Are you sure you want to watch this, son? You're gonna have nightmares." And me being 8 years old, thinking I'm hot shit and I'm not scared of anything, I was like, "Yeah, no, it's fine."
Spoiler alert: he was in fact scared of
I
something.
was in fact scared of something, and it's like not any specific scene that scared me. It was just the movie as a whole, and the two scenes like really stood out to me the most that kind of scared the shit out of me. Was the first one being when that grandma's like, "Oh, what's that noise?" And she's like walking around with her shotgun, and the two main characters are standing out front.
Spoiler alerts ahead. Spoiler alert ahead.
For old movies.
Yeah, and like you hear a bunch of shotgun blasts, and then it just silent. And then you see her like walking up to the front door, only to realize that she's just dead. And then the other scene that really messed me up as an 8-year-old who shouldn't have been watching this movie was the end scene where like he kills Justin Long, the main character of that movie. And like his skin is like strung up, and like Jeepers Creepers, whatever his actual name is, I don't remember what it is. He like walks up behind it and like stares through with his eyes peering.
Oh,
through.
I remember that scene.
Yeah, peering through his like front of his body. It's been like skinned and just hanging there. And I was like, "Yep, I'm having nightmares."
It's like, haha, I'm not sleeping tonight.
And proceeded to have a nightmare that night. Me at 8 years old being skinned alive by this thing.
Okay. You want to know what movie actually fucked me up for a long time that like none of you are gonna think?
The Barbie movie.
No.
The Bridge to Terabithia.
No.
The Land Before Time?
No, it was.
Seriously, shut the fuck up.
He'll get there.
Trying to remember which one it is now. Oh no, it was. It was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Was it the fucking spiders?
No,
For me, it was the fucking
it was
spiders.
the snake.
Yeah, no, the spider. Oh, I had to leave the theater with my dad when the spider thing happened, which makes sense because
Yeah, you're.
But the big ass snake was pretty fucked up too. Yeah.
So we were at the
Well,
ranch.
no. So part of the reason it scared the shit out of me so much is that back at my home that I grew up in, we had it was a 2-story house, and the stairway upstairs. If you were sitting in the living room, you could see the stairway, but you could only see like the path up. You couldn't actually see the steps itself. And so like for the longest time, I thought that the snake was going to come from upstairs down the stairs, and I just wouldn't see it. And so one day I'd walk up to the stairs and get like chomped on by a giant fucking snake.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
By the way, if you would like to know, when we were at the ranch last weekend, me and Philip were traveling to go get firewood, and I accidentally went through a spider web again.
There was a reason why when you and Mitchell like fucked off to go get firewood, and I was like, oh man, they kind of left me here. I was like, no, I'm cool with it, because I remember the last time that I hopped in that car with Mitchell, he hit 7 fucking spider webs on the passenger side. I want you to guess how many of them had big ass spiders in them.
All of them.
Oh, fucking all of them. At one point, I was literally sitting in Mitchell's lap, and he was like, get off of me. And I was like, no. I was like, Mitchell, if we're hitting a spider web, you're fucking getting hit too. That's how this is. If I'm going down, bitch, you're going down with me. Because I was like, Mitchell, don't drive so close to the trees because of the spitters. And Mitchell was like, will you take fuck you for 300? So I was like, fuck it, bitch. I'm in your lap. Eat my ass.
So I actually kind of have a real life version of what Phil was talking about, what he was worried about as a kid. So this is when I was like 21, 22 years old. I'm not going to use any names or any cities just for, obvious reasons.
To be fair, we dox ourselves all the time.
Shit, say less, homie.
There's somebody in the server that actually knows where I live, and I just kind of don't care.
Understandable. Have a great day. Yeah. So at the time, I was living with my ex-girlfriend who was pregnant, and I was living in what I thought was a good apartment. It was actually one of the shittiest apartments I've ever lived in. But anyway.
Oh, wait a minute.
I think you know who I'm talking about and where I'm talking about.
It's like...
Yeah.
Is
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's that person.
They can't see it, Mitchell.
Yeah, it's that person. So at any rate, so I woke up. It was like, no, I just got off work because I used to work overnight at Walmart. Yeah, don't ever work at Walmart. Just don't fucking do it.
I work at Walmart.
I'm
feel
gonna
you,
point
homie.
different directions.
Walmart bros, sadness.
That's south, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
It's just like, which way, motherfucker, which way?
So I had just gotten off work. I get home, I'm tired as hell, and girlfriend's pregnant, walking around, and we're in the kitchen. I'm making some breakfast for me and her before I, sleep for the rest of the day. And I noticed that my cat is staring at something intensely in the kitchen. I'm like, what are you staring at, little girl? And I took a step back, and I just saw a snake there. I'm like, oh, fuck! And mind you, my girlfriend, pregnant at the time, well, you keep that in mind, is standing like a foot and a half away from the
Hey, in case y'all weren't aware, his girlfriend was pregnant at the time.
His girlfriend was pregnant
Just really
at the time.
wanted to make sure that was out there.
Right? So I'm like, oh, shit, a snake. And I didn't realize what kind it was. So I grabbed my girlfriend and yank her back into the wall. And she's like, babe, what the fuck? And I'm like, there's a snake in the kitchen. And she's like, oh, shit. I'm like, go upstairs. And I finally look down, and it is a baby rattlesnake.
Oh, fuck.
Now, for context, allow me to... I'm a pest control technician, so I know a lot about bugs, animals. Anyway, so rattlesnakes have a reaction time to bite you of less than a quarter of a second, and they can strike double the length of their body. So if you have a full-grown, 6-foot rattlesnake, yeah, they have a striking distance of about 10 to 12 feet. Anyway, so I'm like, oh, shit.
And on top of this, baby snakes usually are more dangerous because when they bite you, they dump all their venom.
No,
right?
I think that's been debunked. I think it's a bit that adults actually will produce most venom.
Pest control.
That's why I'm looking at him.
Yeah, so you're both right. Essentially, the reason why juveniles are so dangerous is because they can't control their venom as good as adults can, and that's what makes venomous spiders and venomous snakes so inherently dangerous, because they just don't control their venom distribution as well as adults do. So I'm like, oh shit, because I didn't have any tools to deal with this. So I run to the office. I'm like, hey, there's a baby rattlesnake in my apartment. I have a pregnant girlfriend. They're like, oh shit, we'll call pest control. So maintenance shows up, and he's like, all right, bet, bro, where's the snake at? I'm like, it crawled into that hole under my island right there. And he's like, all right, bet, I got you.
Did this motherfucker get bit?
No.
I was like, is this going to slowly transition to, I watched the light leave his eyes?
No. So he pulls a crowbar out of his bucket, and he starts tearing up my baseboards there. And he's like, don't worry, bro, I'm going to get it. I'm like, okay. So he starts tearing it up, and nothing. And he's like, all right, bro, I can't do anything about it. I was like, all right, well, what about my baseboards you just ripped up? He's like, don't worry about it, man. I got you. I'll fix it in a week. And I'm like, hey, where's pest control at? He's like, oh, they'll be here in an hour. I'm like, all right. So I stay up for an hour. It's 3 p.m. by this point. Mind you, I have to work at 10. No one shows up. I'm like,
Matt's over here. Please fucking kill me.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to sleep. So me and girlfriend go to sleep.
This was the first mistake.
This was the first mistake. So I wake up. It's 9:30. I'm getting ready for work, and I'm going downstairs. So I left my work boots downstairs.
Oh God.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. And so at the top of my staircase, at the bottom of my staircase.
Please tell me you went all Woody on this.
We're getting there.
We're
getting there, Dutch. So I turn on the light. I'm groggy as shit. I'm walking down the stairs. I'm about to put my foot on the last step. And I look down. Now, my floors were brown. Not like this. This is more of a gray brown. But they were as brown as a rattlesnake is. And I'm about to put my foot down. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, hi there. And it's just chilling at the base of my staircases. Staircase. Bless you. Times 2. Times 3.
You only get 2.
You only get 2. And
Sorry, I already got 3. Get over it.
So my girlfriend's asleep. I'm like, babe, boot now, because I had another pair of combat boots upstairs. So she threw my boot down. I put it on. And I'm like, what do I do? So I like propped myself up on my rails, pushed myself up, and launched myself onto this thing's head.
Das Boot.
With my right foot that had a boot on it, and I'm like, babe, knife, something. So this bitch comes back with craft scissors, not a knife, not
Were they
shears.
safety craft?
Yes, it was safety craft scissors. And I'm like, fuck it, this will work. So I cut the head off of the snake, kept my foot on it, put the rest of it in a bag, and then got tongs and picked up the head and put it in the bag too. And then set it outside of my front porch, went to work, got off work, came back the next day, and grabbed the bag and went to the front office, and I had it behind my back. I'm like, hey, so where's pest control at, guys? And they're like, oh, did they never show up? I'm like, no, they didn't. And like, so you do understand how deadly a rattlesnake venom is, yeah? And they're like, yeah, we do. I'm like, my girlfriend's pregnant.
If you didn't know.
And I'm like, oh, well, we're so sorry. Oh, we'll see if we can get him out today. And I was like, don't worry about it. And they were like, well, why? And I was like, bag? I was like, this is why. And they're like, what'd you do? I took care of it.
I gave it the Dead Space treatment.
I did give it the Dead Space
stomped it out.
So yeah, that's kind of my whole like tie into Phil's horror story about the fear of a snake being like.
I'm not gonna lie, I 100% thought this was gonna go like, hey, Left Brain Matthew, what's up, Right Brain Matthew? Well, Left Brain Matthew, do boots make hissing noises? Why do you ask, Right Brain Matthew? Because my boot's making hissing noises.
I'm pretty sure if I had woken up like another 10 minutes later, it would have been because it was like 2 feet beside my boot, like my work boots. So that
was
very
like,
well
I'm
could
gonna
have
get
happened.
this bitch.
So yeah, that's my rattlesnake horror story.
God, fuck that.
Mitchell, you've been pretty quiet. Anything you want to say or comment on?
Dude, it's almost 1:30.
That Tarkov is the best worst game on the planet.
Mitchell, is it time to go ahead and start the episode?
We probably should.
Oh, okay, let's start the episode. Thank you for sitting through this rant with us. We will see you all in 2 minutes.